Welcome to Codex, a history of video games. I'm Mike Coletta.
And I'm Tyler Osby.
And today we're going to be talking about another spooky game, Left 4 Dead.
Oh, man. It is spooky season, so we're continuing our breakaway from Masters of Doom. We will get back to that book, though, because id games are pretty spooky, too, I think.
There's
so I
demons.
think they're relevant to this conversation. Yeah, there's demons. You're, like, going to the depths of hell. It's, like, it's very spooky.
It's pretty heavy
We'll get
stuff.
back to it. Yeah. So spooky season for Codex continues well into November, is what I'm saying here. We don't just spend the month of October talking about spooky games.
It's true.
But today, we're talking about a franchise that is very near and dear to both my heart and Mike's, Left 4 Dead. So, first thing out of the top, we're getting the grime facts out of the way. Left 4 Dead, developer, Turtle Rock Studios, later renamed to Valve South after they were purchased by Valve, later reestablished as an independent company in 2011 called Turtle Rock Studios. Again, so they went through some like Bungie stuff where they like got bought by a big developer and then decided, wait, no, we didn't want to do that. And so then they like broke away from it. Left 4 Dead was released, the first game was released on November 7th, 2008 on PC and Xbox 360. It came out for Mac a few years later. I don't know the exact launch date of that, probably the same time Steam came out for Macs. Number of copies sold. Last we heard in 2012, the series had sold over 12 million copies. It gets a little murky because of how similar Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 are. Like a little while after Left 4 Dead 2 came out, they sort of incorporated everything the first game had into the second one. So like nowadays, I don't even know if it's still for sale, but if it is, it's really not worth buying Left 4 Dead 1 because it's all in Left 4 Dead 2.
Yes.
The genre is first-person shooter, co-op, zombie horror. Does that about cover it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. It's all three of those things. It won a bunch of awards, including GameSpot's Game of the Year, Best Multiplayer Game of 2008 by IGN, GameSpy, remember GameSpy? Spike TV,
rip
No Frag.
GameSpy.
Yeah, and BAFTA. Many more as well. It was a pretty good game. Like, it won a bunch of awards. The how long to beat is a little weird on this one because there are a few campaigns. I want to say there's like 4 or 5 campaigns, and they probably each take about an hour or two to beat. So I guess if you were playing through all of them, I'd say it probably takes you 10 hours to complete them all. But the game is really all about the replayability of like going back and playing with your friends over and over again. So it's kind of hard to put like a you finished this game kind of number on it. The Metacritic score was 89%, which I think should have been higher, honestly. Like 89% is pretty good. But man, this game, like I don't know anybody that played Left 4 Dead and was like, nah, this game's bad. Like there are some people who might say, it's not for me. I don't really like zombies. I don't like shooters. Like, okay, that's fine. Maybe you didn't like it. But like for everybody who likes those things, I think this pretty much like covered everything, right? I don't know.
So good.
So let's talk about Left 4 Dead. The TLDR on Left 4 Dead of like what it is this. It's a co-op first-person shooter for 4 players, or 8 if you play the versus mode. We can get into that a little bit later, where each of you play as a survivor in a campaign against zombies. And each campaign is broken up into like 3 to 5 chapters, where you fight through hordes of zombies to reach the safe house, or in the last chapter, it's to evacuate whatever area you're in. So each campaign probably takes an hour to 2 hours, depending on how good your team is. I have had some take more than that. When we have it on an especially high difficulty or are just for whatever reason having a lot of trouble. As you fight through the hordes of zombies together, you use weapons. So standard machine guns, pistols, shotguns, rifles, etc. And there's nothing really special about the weapons, but they're pretty diverse. They cover all of the different weapon archetypes. You also get a few things that you can throw at zombies, like Molotov cocktails, which sort of cover a large area in fire, and pipe bombs, which beep and sort of attract bad guys or zombies to the pipe bomb.
I love a good
so
pipe bomb.
Yeah. So they like crowd around it and then it explodes and their guts go everywhere. It's very satisfying. And so those are the 2 things in the first game. There are special infected that can jump on you, pin you down, or otherwise hurt you that require your teammates to free you from. So that's like where the kicker is that you have to stick together because if anybody runs off, like say one person is like way better than everybody else on the team, if that person goes off by themselves, they're going to get hit by one of these special infected and they will have no one around them to save them. So everybody has to stay together so that you don't run the risk of being caught by one and dying. So it rewards that staying together and playing cooperatively, which I think is really fun and makes the game a lot more fun to play with folks who might not be quite as good at video games because you have to play around their skill set. Like it's one of those games where it's like your weakest player sort of, I don't want to say drags the team down because I think it makes it a little bit more fun when there's somebody who's not quite as good as everybody else because then everybody has to like help that person. And I think it it just builds camaraderie and is really fun. And I hope that it feels good for the person who is the least good, because everybody is like has to play with them and help them. They don't get left behind. Does that make sense?
They don't get.
Do you agree with that?
Left for Dead. Yeah,
they don't get. Yeah, left for dead.
I think that's the best part about this game is like the reason I thought of this is that I actually played with some Discord Codex folks. We played this game and I forgot how fantastic it is, and
yeah,
we kind of we had one person in the group who hadn't played it before, and it was just like super fun teaching them, and also like there's things about the game that just make you feel good. Like if you're down and someone saves you, it feels good. But if you are the guy that saves someone when they have like a jockey on their back or something, which we'll explain later, it's like so rewarding. It just feels good. It feels like this game makes you feel like you're a team player, essentially.
Yeah.
And it rewards you for being a team player.
Yeah,
Whereas
and as
some
far as
multiplayer games, it's just like, yeah, that guy's really good and he's just going to do it, you know?
Yeah. And as far as I know, with the special infected, like there really isn't any way to like dodge them, or I mean, like you can kind of play strategically when you know they're around, but like if you run off by yourself, you're gonna get hit by one of them. And so there's always an opportunity for that player who's the least skilled to like save someone, because everybody is gonna run into that moment where they get tackled by a hunter, or they're getting run around by a jockey, or all of the different special infected. They all do some variation of incapacitating you so that you need your teammate to help you out. And I think that also makes that person feel really useful and special and helpful.
Yeah.
So it's just a really, really well done co-op game. There are two things that I think are especially cool about Left 4 Dead. They are the cinematic aesthetic and the director AI. So I'll talk about the cinematic aesthetic first. It's kind of how each campaign is like designed to feel like a zombie or a horror movie. There's like film grain, and each of the survivors kind of embodies a stereotypical horror movie character. And the campaigns are all designed to be played in a specific order so that you see the whole story over all the campaigns. And I thought it was really neat, and like, this wasn't the first game to like sort of pretend to be a movie, but I think it really pulled it off well. I actually still have movie posters of some of my favorite campaigns on the walls of my apartment, No Mercy and Blood Harvest. And we've moved so many times now that the frames that we put them in, like glass frames, because we love those posters so much, they keep breaking, but like cracking, you know, but I kind of like that the frames are like cracked and stuff. So we just leave them how they are.
Dude, I was actually going to mention that if you didn't mention that in here. Because I was like, yeah, the first time I met you in LA again, when I saw you again, I was like, you got Left 4 Dead posters on your wall.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, our friend Jared bought those. They sold them in a pack of 4 with all 4 of the first game's campaigns in it, and he gave us 2 of them.
That's
which was
so
pretty
cool. Do you want to hear my ding dong moment from today from researching?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
did not know that if you play all the campaigns in order, it tells an overarching story. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Because I would always play this game with you at a party, or we'd just play it like the 4 of us hanging out together in the same room in college. And we would just play whatever we wanted to play, never even thought about the overarching story. And now that I know that, I'm like, well, I need to play these again, you know?
Yeah, they're loosely connected. I mean, I wouldn't call the story some like masterpiece of zombie storytelling or anything like that. But like generally where one campaign starts is where another one had just ended.
Yes.
And they do some really cool stuff with the sequel that we'll probably talk about later, where they released a campaign for the old game that sort of crosses paths with the campaigns of the new game, because the new game, the second one, has all different survivors, and they're in the same game world, but it's a different story. But those two campaigns like cross paths, which is really cool. I think one of them is called The Crossing, and the other one's called The Passing, I want to say, which is really, really fun. I thought it was a really unique way to sort of tie those games together. So the movie aesthetic was really cool. The second thing that I think is really cool about this game that sort of was like the new thing that it brought to this genre was the director AI. And that's the director sort of makes every playthrough different from others. Like zombies spawn at different times, different places. You get different special infected. And in the second game, different paths are open on the maps. They sort of change that stuff around. The director kind of adapts to the situation of the group on each playthrough, which makes it pretty fun and unique each time you play. Sometimes frustrating because you can get stuck on a spot that didn't give you any trouble the first time you played that campaign, but for some reason, the way the director is giving you zombies, it's like making it really hard this time through, which is frustrating, but also kind of fun and cool, you know? So I think it's really fun, especially if you've got a full team of 4 survivors. You can play by yourself though, like in the other survivor roles, just be filled by bots. Or if you don't have 4 people, you have 2 or 3 people. Like you can still play, and the bots aren't terrible on their own, but it's definitely a game that's much better played with a full team of survivors communicating and having fun, goofing around. So, yeah. Anything else you want to say about this before we jump into the development of Left 4 Dead?
Just that this game is amazing. I just love it so much. This game was like college, so that's one of the reasons why I was really surprised we haven't done this yet. You know, as like a personal thing for the both of us. I'm like, we spent a lot of hours playing this game.
Yeah, we played a lot of Left 4 Dead, that's for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the development of Left 4 Dead. The development on this game started way back in 2005 at Turtle Rock Studios. Turtle Rock had been involved with Valve projects before, having assisted development on the original Counter-Strike and getting Counter-Strike Condition Zero across the finish line. Before starting on Left 4 Dead, Turtle Rock also helped Valve put out the Xbox version of Counter-Strike, which I don't think anybody played, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. I don't think it was particularly good, as well as Counter-Strike Source. So they were no strangers to the Source engine. They'd put in a lot of Counter-Strike. They built a lot of Counter-Strike games so far. And so they decided they were going to build their next game on the Source engine. They had worked closely with Valve, so they probably knew some people there that could help them if they ran into any trouble. And in 2005, the Source engine was pretty hot. I know these days, like there are still some games, like Titanfall games run on the Source engine. Like there are still some games that run on the Source engine, or I guess it's Source 2 now. It's not the same as it was in 2005. But in 2005, the Source engine was like a big deal because it was what powered Half-Life 2, which was super cutting edge in late 2004 and 2005 when that game came out. And that game, I think, still looks good if you go back and give it another playthrough.
Half-Life we both 2. Think that. I mean, it does still look good.
Yeah, it holds up. I think that game holds up pretty well.
Personally. Yeah, it really does. I didn't play Half-Life 2 until relatively later. Like I would say like 2000, I guess like 2008, 2009. And yeah, it holds up. It's really great.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I played through it, well, relatively recently, which means within the past like 10 years. So, but it holds up. And I don't think that it was just nostalgia. But anyway, Left 4 Dead was announced in November 2006 and was first revealed in PC Gamer UK magazine. Do you remember when games used to be revealed in magazines? Like you'd see the cover at the store and you'd be like, I want to know more about that game. And you'd like get the magazine so you could take it home. Did you ever do that?
Yes, it was a better time, if you ask me. It was a beautiful time. There was no crazy hype trains on the internet that everyone was like following along with. It was great.
Yeah. In these days, like a reveal in a magazine doesn't really mean much because all of that information has been out for like weeks or even months beforehand. Sometimes a magazine will get like an exclusive thing, but even then it's like, still kind of, it's not the same, you know? It's not the same.
I can't think of a time I get a magazine except when I'm desperate in an airport to read something.
Yeah.
That's the only time I buy a magazine now.
Yeah. I will sometimes read, I have Apple News Plus on my iPad, and so I will sometimes read like PC Gamer or Macworld or like some of those magazines, and like it's cool that I get it as a part of Apple News Plus, but I wouldn't buy those issues separately or even care that much because all the information generally exists elsewhere.
It's no Nintendo Power, I'll tell you that much.
Well, rest in peace, Nintendo Power.
Yeah, that was when so magazines were great, if you ask me.
Yep. Yeah, that was my first magazine.
Old man here telling you that's when they were great.
Yeah, my first issue of Nintendo Power was the Banjo-Kazooie issue. It was actually, oh man, I remember this. It was issue 109 from, I don't remember what month, but it was 1998. Must have been like later in 1998. Anyway, welcome to Codex, a history of Nintendo Power, which is maybe something we should do at some point.
Yeah, definitely. We actually should do that. That's a good idea. We should write that on the list.
Yeah. But anyway, Left 4 Dead was revealed in PC Gamer UK in December of 2006, a couple of years before it would end up being released. They worked on it quietly for about a year before they were purchased by Valve in January of 2008, which made a ton of sense for Valve because they were like, they knew Turtle Rock was good. They had made a bunch of Counter-Strike games. They knew they were good at using the Source engine, and they were using the Source engine for their new game. So this made total sense for Valve to buy Turtle Rock, to fund them, and to make Left 4 Dead like a really, really good game. So they bought Turtle Rock and they renamed them Valve South. And that's, I think that shows how confident they were in Turtle Rock and that Left 4 Dead, the game, was going to be a great game. And they really believed in it. They spent $10 million promoting Left 4 Dead as a true next-gen multiplayer experience. I remember being at, I think must have been PAX 2008. That would have been in like September of 2008. and how cool the Left 4 Dead booth was. It had this really, really long line, and people outside couldn't see what was happening inside. Most of the booths at PAX, at least in those days, like even if you had to wait in a long line to like play whatever you were waiting in line to play, you could still watch other people play it while you were waiting and sort of get hyped on it. But Left 4 Dead, they chose to do it in this like closed off room. Like I didn't know what the game was, which I think maybe didn't work out in their favor because ultimately I skipped the line. That's like the first in like a long line of bad decisions I made at PAX because I didn't want to wait in line.
Yeah, but you don't know that. Like PAX lines, like after being in them for a while, sometimes sometimes they are a real letdown. You know?
Yeah.
So you know, there's nothing you can beat yourself up about. You don't know. You know?
There was one time I waited in line to play the Wii version of Metroid Prime and to get a t-shirt when I waited in this line and I looked over to my right and I was like kind of like probably third or fourth in line to play this thing. And it was kind of a decent line, but Reggie Fils-Aimé was like standing over there, just like hanging out and talking to people. And I was like, I could have left that line to go meet Reggie Fils-Aimé, but instead I waited in line to play a game I had already played and beaten several times to get the t-shirt, which was a really cool t-shirt. But I still like, I look back on that and I'm like, I could have met Reggie and I didn't. Another bad PAX decision I made was skipping the Riot Games League of Legends booth at PAX as free-to-play garbage, which, to be fair, in those days, anything free-to-play was bad in 2008. Like, it was... I don't think I was wrong for thinking something was free-to-play was bad, but I would later find out that game was actually okay, and that Riot would eventually become my employer. So, how about that? Those are just a couple of the bad decisions I've made at PAX, but we'll leave it at those for now. Anyway, that $10 million meant that Left 4 Dead was a pretty big deal by the time it came out. I was super hyped, and I got a copy of the game on Xbox for Christmas that year, which was pretty cool. Eventually, I picked the game up on PC. I'm not sure when, because I kind of remember PC being my primary way of playing this game, but I had also gotten it for Xbox, so I must not have had it on PC by Christmas.
I only played this game on Xbox until I got the Valve collection on Steam in like 2014, 2013. So I'd only played it on Xbox. It's a great Xbox game. It really holds up as an Xbox game for sure.
Yeah, it was really fun. It had like split screen stuff. I'm like trying to think of like, cause like when did I buy it? I don't know. I'll have to look at my Valve purchase history. Maybe I can sort of figure out what the story is there. But the game came out in November of 2008 and was pretty quickly a smash success. It was one of those games that didn't pioneer any of the pieces that it made up. Like good co-op FPS games had already been around, like Halo and games like that. Zombie games had already been around for a couple of years, and maybe by 2008 we were starting to get a little tired of zombie games. At least I was. But Left 4 Dead brought all of those things together with such a high level of polish that it was hard not to pick it up and immediately love it. That and the director AI, I think, that made it like really fun to play through multiple times and made it super fun to play with friends. It was just one of those games that's like, none of these pieces are like new, but they're all so well put together that I just love it, you know? And on Xbox, it had 2-player split screen, so you could really easily play co-op with a friend. You could also go online. You could play System Link with up to 4 other players. I think it had matchmaking too. They added that to the PC version. I don't know if they put that on the Xbox version or not, but you could always find a team to play with the matchmaking on PC, even if you didn't have any friends. So, but with a Metacritic score of 89%, I think it's pretty clear that the first Left 4 Dead was a pretty big success. I'm a little surprised, like I said earlier, that it's even that low because the game was just so well polished and so fun. It's one of those like flawless games that just nails what it set out to do so well, and it's hard to find any like real faults in it. I think my biggest problem with it was that like when your team dies, you have to go back to the beginning of whatever chapter you were on in the campaign you're playing, and sometimes that's a while back. Like you could lose like 30 to 45 minutes of progress, which kind of feels bad, especially if you're doing it like over and over. If you're like losing at the end of a chapter and then having to go back to the start of it can kind of feel bad. Those are those games that take like 3 to 4 hours to finish. But I think that's pretty nitpicky, and the game is just so fun to play through anyway. So you said you played it on Xbox when it first came out, and you didn't play it on PC until way
when
later,
we were in college playing it. I remember distinctly playing it on Xbox only, I think.
Yeah.
And then this is 360. And then the thing I love about it is it kind of became a party game. Like when you first played it, you like took it really seriously, and then you would try to beat the level. And then it got to the point where you're just like in college, we were just hanging out and you're like, want to play Left 4 Dead? It's like, yeah, sure. we might beat it. We might not. It doesn't really matter. You know, it was just kind of fun to like shoot zombies and hang out together. And that's what I remember the most about this game. Like, because sure, you could crank the difficulty up and have a really hard time and like pound your head against the wall with friends, or you could just like throw it on easy and just have a good night and casually drink and play the game and party essentially, which is fun.
Yeah. My like one of my most cherished memories with Left 4 Dead in college was my 21st birthday. I played with a couple of friends. I didn't drink at all back then, and so like on my 21st birthday, I wasn't like out doing a 21 run or anything. So we just played Left 4 Dead 2 all night, so I called it my 21 run from zombies, which was really fun. I just had a really good time playing it. That's like my
21 fun. Is that what you did?
My 21 run from zombies.
I'm gonna make T-shirts that say Tyler's 21 fun run, and it's gonna be a picture of you and like a cartoon of you running away from like 3 zombies. That's what it's gonna be. T-shirt idea.
We can sell it on Teespring.
Yeah, we could. That would be a T-shirt I would buy. There is a T-shirt on Teespring that we need to buy. So it's a John Glames shirt.
The John Glames one, yeah.
Oh man, I need to get that. Okay, all right. You ready for me to talk about Left 4 Dead 2?
I am ready for you to talk about Left 4 Dead 2.
All right, we're going to do some grime facts. Starting out, Valve is the developer. This time, they just took it away from Turtle Rock. Just give it back to us. Give it back to us.
Because Turtle Rock was Valve at that point, right?
That's a good point. This is in 2009. They hadn't lit up Turtle. So this is technically, it's Valve, but it's Turtle Rock, okay?
Yeah, it's probably most of the same people.
Yeah, so the game came out. I'm going to combine release date and platforms together and just tell you when they released on what system. So it first came out on November 17th in 2009 on PC. That same date, it came out in North America on Xbox 360. It then came out in Xbox 360 in Europe on November 20th, 2009. Mac OS X had a release on October 5th, 2010. And then finally, the game came out on Linux, July 2nd, 2013.
Oh, yeah. The first game must be on Linux, too. Like they sort of like when Valve put Steam on Mac and then on Linux, I think all of their games just worked immediately on both those platforms.
Yeah, Valve games,
was pretty
I'm pretty
cool.
sure all the Valve games work on any form of Steam. They really made a point to do that. Not a lot of Linux shout-outs on this podcast, so there you go.
No, not a lot. And I am a big Linux fan, so if
where
any
my
of you on
Ubuntu fans at?
If any of our Codex buddies on Discord into Linux, let me know. Give me a shout.
Give Tyler that Linux shout out. Okay, so number of copies sold. This kind of is so you mentioned it before with 12 million copies, and that's a combination of both games from 2012. There really are no like sales figures after 2012. My only guess is that no one is buying Left 4 Dead 1 unless it's a part of the Valve starter pack.
Yeah.
You know, that has all the games, but people sometimes buy Left 4 Dead 2 by itself, you know.
Yeah, and it goes on sale like pretty much anytime there's like a big Steam-wide sale. Like Left 4 Dead goes on sale for like $1 or $2. Like I have to believe that so many more people have it now, but it's not that impressive because they keep selling it for like dirt cheap. I think they even made it free for like they do weekends where they're just like, I don't know, click here and you get it for free forever. So it's kind of hard to like judge sales, you know, in that sense.
Yeah. So the genre is the same. They didn't really change anything up. It's a co-op zombie survival horror first-person shooter. That's what it is. It did win some different awards for Left 4 Dead 2, though. They won the Best Xbox 360 Game Award at the 2009 Spike Video Game Awards. Remember when Spike was really trying to do like, we're the cool gaming channel. Yeah. They also got nominations for Outstanding Achievement in Gameplay Engineering, Outstanding Achievement in Online Gameplay, and Action Game of the Year at the DICE Awards. Well, it used to be called the Interactive Achievement Awards, and now they are the DICE Awards. So
okay.
We could probably do a history on video game award shows, but I don't know if anyone would really care. So that's why we haven't done that.
Let us know.
In 2016, it also won the Better with Friends Award at the first ever Steam Awards. So that's all the way in 2016. That's 7 years later. People are still loving, because this game is fun to play with friends. It's so good.
Yeah.
Okay. How long to beat for Left 4 Dead 2 is pretty much the exact same as Left 4 Dead 1. It's 9.5 to 10 hours to beat the initial 5 campaign missions that come with the game. So it's about 2 hours of campaign mission, but you're there to play the game more than that. And also there is a ton of DLC for Left 4 Dead 2. So
and a lot of like community stuff. Like, man, there's just so much content out there.
So much going on. So 89% on Metacritic again, should be higher. But that's the way the world works. So, what changed between Left 4 Dead 1 and 2? Well, I'm going to talk about the characters and levels in a bit, but I want to talk about the game modes first, because you got your campaign with 4 humans. You can play it single player with bots. You got your versus. Your versus is back. Okay. There's a survival mode in Left 4 Dead 2.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. That you can survive as long as possible against unending foes of zombies. They just keep throwing. The director keeps throwing zombies at you. You got to fight them off. There's a scavenge mode. And this is a 4-on-4 multiplayer mode where you got to collect and use fuel cans that are scattered all over the map to power a generator. And the infected and the other players try to stop you, which is pretty cool.
Those were the worst levels in the regular campaign.
They really
Why would you
are.
choose
They
to do
really are.
scavenge?
When we played,
I guess 4-on-4, it's like competitive.
yeah,
maybe
when
it's
we
different.
played on the Discord, we had the mission where you got to like fill up the gas in the car in the mall.
Yeah.
And it was just
dead center.
Yeah, it was a slog. It was hard. We did it, though. We did survive. With the power of our friendship, we all prevailed, but still, it was really rough. Okay, so the last two are not really game modes, but more difficulty changes. There's a realism mode in Left 4 Dead 2 where you can't see other survivors' silhouettes through walls. Dead enemies can only be revived with defibrillators, and you will not have your friends respawn later on. They won't show up in a closet like in the other games.
If they die.
Yeah. Other items, like weapons and stuff, only glow when they're like within a few feet of you. Essentially, they take all the UI out of it to make it harder. And then the headshots deal more damage, whereas limb and body shots don't really do as much damage. Oh, and the witch will just straight up kill you instead of incapacitating you. Like if you die from the witch, you're just dead. So like this is just a way for it to be harder without like, and more challenging without having to like really ramp up like how many zombies are on the screen. Like these are just some fun little levels. There's also a thing called mutation, and that is where they just do different, like there's 30 different variations. Some of them are single player variations, some of them are multiplayer variations, where they just change gameplay mechanics. So they can do it where you're like your health is always draining, where you have to play it like if you're a single player, you have to play it solo. Like they won't give you bots to play with, which sounds kind of cool. Like there's no incapacitation, you just die is another mutation. So things like that. There are 3 new enemies in Left 4 Dead 2. The Charger, which like is this dude with like a giant right arm, and he charges you and knocks you back and stuns you. It's pretty bad. The Spitter is really annoying because the Spitter shoots like stomach acid at you, and it erodes your health. And it also like makes it so you like the longer you sit in the spitter goo, the faster your health goes down. So if you're not really paying attention, it can really mess you up. And the last one is the Jockey. And the Jockey is so annoying. It jumps on your back and it tries to steer you into like other infected or like spitter goo or other environmental hazards. You know, it's really annoying. It's super annoying, the Jockey. But those are the 3 new added enemies for Left 4 Dead 2. Which is funny because if you'd have asked me, hey, Mike, what enemies were added in Left 4 Dead 2, I would not have been able to tell you because I've pretty much exclusively played Left 4 Dead 2 and not Left 4 Dead 1. So,
yeah. Well, it only came out a year later, right?
Yeah, I would not have known. So let's talk about the development for a little bit. Pretty much they did a short break right after Left 4 Dead 1, and then they immediately started on Left 4 Dead 2. And the whole goal was to just make the game bigger and better. That was the entire goal. The game, of course, had a sweet code name, and that code name was Carnation. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Right?
Pretty good.
The writer of Left 4 Dead 2, Chet Falazek, he wanted Left 4 Dead 2's story to explore more of the world in the game and kind of make a bigger and wider story talking about the infection pandemic and stuff like that. Each campaign was purposely designed to have a different feel. Like I'll talk about the campaigns in a bit and you'll know they're like all very different, but they were all mapped out at the same time by the entire team to kind of add more of a narrative flow to it. So while they're in different settings, the game still feels like it's all connected, which I thought was kind of cool. I never really thought about that.
Cool. They did a better job in the second one of connecting them all.
They
together,
really did. The team also made something called, they call it a Left 4 Dead dictionary. And I think they used it as just so they all internally had like a common language for developing levels. So again, they're just really trying to have cohesion between these campaigns. But let's talk about the new characters. Because in Left 4 Dead 2, there are 7,800, that's 7,800 unique lines of dialogue.
Dang, that's a lot.
Yeah, and that's a 40% increase from the original Left 4 Dead. And the writers also wanted to get appropriate character voice actors who had like natural accents for their lines. They wanted it to be like, yeah, we're not gonna have people like pretend to do an accent. Like we're gonna have people that are voice actors, and they actually encouraged them to ad lib lines, and a lot of those ad lib lines were thrown in the game, which I thought was really cool.
Because it takes place in like Louisiana, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like New Orleans, like that kind of that area. So there's definitely an accent from that region.
Yeah, so the characters are Ellis, who is a mechanic, played by Eric Layden. Nick, who is a gambler, and a con artist, played by Hugh Dillon. Coach, played by Chad Coleman, who is a football coach. I mean, the name's Coach is pretty clear. Rochelle, who's played by Rochelle Aites, who is a low-level production assistant reporting on the evacuation for a local TV station. Easily has the worst of all four, I think. And then the last voice you hear is Randall Newsom, who was the voice of Captain Virgil, who is a local actor from Louisiana that they hired to speak Cajun, like to have like an actual Cajun accent, so that to bring you into that role. Because the Cajun guy, he picks you up, Captain Virgil, from and takes you from one setting to another multiple times. So it's kind of cool to have him like there as like an interconnection between all the campaigns in the base game, because as I said before, they're going to add a ton of stuff later. So they're also, do you want to know about cut characters? People who didn't make it? There was supposed to be a, quote, no-nonsense woman from the Department of Motor Vehicles, so like a DMV person, and that got cut out at the end, which is a bummer. Music-wise, they actually wanted to have a bunch of bands in the game, too, and they actually picked Depeche Mode, like really was super excited to be in the game. And
oh, man.
Yeah, and so that's why Rochelle has a Depeche Mode t-shirt in the game.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's really sweet. So let's talk about the levels. So when the game launched, it had 5 campaign levels, and these are chronological in order. So they start at Dead Center, which is in Savannah, Georgia, and it's like just the opening. You're fighting through the city. Then Dark Carnival has you go to the Whispering Oaks amusement park to get through there. Swamp Fever is you're straight up in the bayou at this point, and your chopper crash lands in the bayou. You got to get out. Hard Rain is where you got to get fuel for your rescue boat, piloted by Captain Virgil, so Virgil can get you out. And then the last one's in the Parish, and it's when you're in New Orleans and you're in the French Quarter and you're trying to wait for a helicopter to pick you up to take you to a flotilla in the Gulf of Mexico, because the infected cannot swim, so you need to do that.
Hard Rain was really cool, I remember, because it had you running to get the fuel, and then like the second half of the campaign is you running back to the boat, and the rain is just coming down. There's water everywhere, and it's like hard to see, and it gets really difficult.
Oh yeah, all these are really cool. Really, really cool. So there's a lot of DLC for the game too. There's one called The Passing, which Tyler kind of mentioned before, where the Left 4 Dead 2 survivors encounter the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors.
Yeah,
which is really cool. I think that's really cool. They need connect them together. It's really nifty. They connect them together. Having trouble speaking tonight. Okay. The next one is The Sacrifice.
Oh, that's the other one I was thinking. I think I said The Passing and The Crossing, but you're right. The Sacrifice.
Yeah. And this is the port of the campaigns from the first game that linked them all together. And the Sacrifice is the only campaign that was released for both Left 4 Dead 1 and Left 4 Dead 2 at the same time, and that was done for a very specific controversy that we'll talk about soon. Okay.
Yes.
Cold Stream is a DLC pack that includes a non-canon campaign that's developed with like the community. So this is the first community pack. And then the other one is called The Last Stand, and that one came out in September 2020. That's right. 2020.
Very recently as of recording this.
Yeah, and that has a brand new community-created campaign along with 26 new survival maps and 4 new scavenge maps. Yeah. This game is very active. We don't normally talk about games that are this active, but it's been around for so long, and I love easily one of the games I love a lot that we need to talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, it's over 10 years old, so I think it qualifies as history, even if it's still active.
Definitely. So, people are going to say that and be like, where's the WoW? Where is the World of Warcraft history?
We could do one of those. We could do a history of WoW.
We could. There's so much stuff. It's all in the works. Okay.
Yeah.
So Left 4 Dead 2 now introduces AI Director 2.0. And as Tyler said before, the AI in this game really started messing with the players even more. It can actually force players to go through like different areas by closing off certain areas of the level. It can change the lighting. It can change the weather conditions. It makes every single session special. Like, it gives replayability that we know and love. In this case, too, the Director 2.0 rewards players for actually taking the longer and more difficult path, and it gives them more equipment if you do that.
Oh.
So that's a little thing. Do you know that?
I didn't know that. No, that's cool.
Do you take longer, riskier paths, you get more cool stuff. So one thing, development-wise, that the devs wanted to do at Turtle Rock, now Valve, is they wanted to make it so there was more variation to the infected. But they also had a limited amount of space to work with because of the Xbox 360 hardware. That was just what they needed to do. So they freed up 50 megabytes of space by doing this thing where they take a character frame and then they load different textures onto the frame to save space. So a base character frame that they could change the clothes, face, skin tone, dirt, and hair on adds 24,000 variations per model of infected.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're like randomly generated, basically.
Exactly. And they also
cool.
use this same effect to add wounds to the game. So, like, if you're shot in the arm blows off, or if the enemy's shot in the arm, not you. If the arm, like, if you shoot a zombie's arm off, it explodes. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
And they use that same technique of like adding a different layer onto a frame to do that. So, the one thing that was also another big part of this game was water. So when they were playtesting the Swamp Fever campaign, they noticed that people got lost a lot in there. And they found out if they added water as kind of a way to mark the path of where they needed to go, it really helped people out. But then they had these water effects. So they're like, you know what? Let's just put more water effects in because it looks so cool. And so they added water to like all the levels and all the stuff, And those water effects actually ended up being perfected for the Source engine in Portal 2. So this is kind of where it all started.
Oh,
so that was pretty neat.
cool.
Now let's get into the controversy. This is what we're all here for, right?
Oh, yeah. There was some controversy around Left 4 Dead 2, as I recall.
Yeah, so Left 4 Dead 2 had some issues, and this is where like the first big issue comes, where there was an actual boycott by a Steam group after the 2009 E3 demo. They called themselves L4D2 Boycott, or No L4D2 was the name in parentheses. They had 10,000 members at the weekend after the 2009 E3 convention demo was shown, and then 37,000 a month later. But you're just like, so what were they all mad about? Why did they not want Left 4 Dead 2? Well, they just loved Left 4 Dead 1 so much. And they were concerned this game they had just paid for was not going to come out, like was not going to be supported, but also that the E3 demo just it didn't live up to their expectations. So the demo wasn't good, and they were worried that the Left 4 Dead 1 would not be supported because the sequel's coming out so quick.
Yeah, and they thought it was basically like, oh, this is just an expansion that you're trying to pass off as a full game kind of thing.
Yeah. And in response to these comments, the marketer, the head marketer at Valve, whose name is Doug Lombardi, stated that you need to trust us, okay, and that Left 4 Dead 2 doesn't mean we're going to walk away from Left 4 Dead 1. You need to trust us. And this is a lot why that campaign I mentioned before up here, the Sacrifice, was released on both Left 4 Dead 1 and Left 4 Dead 2 at the same time. They wanted to show they're supporting Left 4 Dead 1 as well as Left 4 Dead 2. And in response with this, there was actually some there was reasoning why Left 4 Dead 2 came out. And that reasoning so soon was the choice to make the sequel was done because it was actually quicker for them to make a new game and a sequel than to implement DLC into Left 4 Dead 1. It was like a design decision.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there were actually some reports that Gabe Newell didn't like this. He's like, you guys should just make DLC for Left 4 Dead 1. But because of some sort of technical thing, he greenlit the sequel to make Left 4 Dead 2, which I thought was pretty interesting. And the way they wanted to show that they were serious, the team, is in September 2009, Valve actually took the two of the boycott group's most prominent members and flew them to Valve to playtest Left 4 Dead 2 and showed them like, this is the sequel. What do you think? And they were all just like, yeah, it's pretty good. You're right. You're right, Valve. We're so sorry. And the group actually disbanded because Valve kept their promise. Like, they had 40,000 people by October 14th, 2009. And the admins were just like, you know what? This group needs to end. We played the game. Valve kept their promise. The game's good. And now the whole purpose of this group is to just talk smack about Valve, and we don't really like it. Like, that's not what we're here for. So we're just going to shut the group down. So
dang,
I think that the lesson learned is sometimes video game companies keep their promises and are not bad people like everyone thinks, Granted, sure, there are a lot of video game companies that are not very nice, but in this case, Valve did the right thing. And they actually helped him out, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's another story also about a guy, the number one modder for Left 4 Dead, whose name is Joe W.A. And Newell joked that Valve was going to, quote, boycott Joe's new mod during this time as a way to make fun of the whole boycott movement. But then he offered to Joe that if he wanted to fly to the country, he would if he would pay to fly Newell to Australia, he would take a look at Joe's mod and consider it. And then what ended up happening is Joe did charity to raise the money. But then Newell just bought the trip himself, checked out Joe's demo, and then took the $3,000 raised by Joe to give it to a charity. So it was kind of fun. It was just it was all in good fun, I think. Even though it started out super serious with this controversy, it kind of ended a little heartwarming, which is good.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah. There was another controversy, though, involving the cover art. Have you heard about this one?
Yeah, a little bit. I think both of them had some cover art that got censored, right?
Yeah. So the cover art for the Left 4 Dead 2 originally was a hand with its little finger, ring finger, and thumb torn off. So it was just the two. So Left 4 Dead 2. And it was too explicit for the ESRB. So they actually changed the image so that the fingers were just bent back. And the thumb was still torn off, but the pinky and the ring finger was still there. And this worked for every single region except for Japan and Germany, where it had to be censored. But
we should.
Oh, go ahead.
We should say the first game's cover was a hand with four fingers up with the thumb ripped off. So it was basically holding up a four. So it was a play on that same cover as the first game.
Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that. You're right. So the real issue comes with the United Kingdom. Because the sign of two fingers up with the back of your hand facing the viewer is considered an insult in the UK.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. And so what they did is they flipped the hand around so you could see the fingers folded underneath. And this actually is the V for victory, which I'm pretty sure is from World War II. So they
I think you're right.
They flip it to a play of V for victory in the UK. And that's how they get around that. There were also some racism accusations around Left 4 Dead 2. This was mostly because it was taking place in Louisiana, and this is also the exact same timeline as Hurricane Katrina. And Willie Jefferson of the Houston Chronicle said that almost all the affected appear to be African Americans. And then it was kind of this feud between that and then the writer, Chet Falizek, who commented that we're just trying to represent the population of the city. And so it was a little back and forth thing. And then ultimately it ended up being no, this is them trying to be representative of the population of New Orleans.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
It kind of blew over. It's probably not worth mentioning a ton about. It just was a part of the history of the game and something that happened at the time. So I want to mention it. I think Kotaku considered... there was a quote from Kotaku that was Jefferson, referring to the Houston Chronicle writer, quote, seems to be picking a fight where none exists. But then it ended up being there was actually good. It was this racial diversity represented in this video game, even if it is a ridiculous post-apocalyptic infected zombie game. So it all turned out okay.
Good.
But it didn't turn out okay for the two countries that banned Left 4 Dead 2. What?
Oh my gosh. What?
No surprise here. Australia had problems with it because Australia has problems with every video game. Australia banned it for, quote, realistic, frenetic, and unrelenting violence.
I mean, they're not wrong.
They weren't wrong. So the game actually was applied to get an MA15 rating. Valve then appealed that, but while they were waiting for the appeal, the launch date was coming up of November 2009. So like, you know what? We'll just make some changes. And they actually made a version that took out decapitation, dismemberment, and wound detail, and also piles of dead bodies removed from the game. And that helped them get an MA15 rating so they could release on time. But the important thing about Left 4 Dead 2, along with Fallout 3 and Alien vs. Predator, is those 3 games in Australia helped create a new classification for video games called R18+. And that
it didn't exist before then.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that came out in January 1st, 2013. And once that passed, to celebrate, Valve released the uncensored version of Left 4 Dead 2 in Australia.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool. Germany also has banned the uncensored version of the game. Fun fact, it is still banned. There is a censored version you can purchase in Germany. If you want to import your own uncensored copy of Left 4 Dead 2, you can certainly do that, but it has a risk of being seized by customs. This is real.
Dang.
Yeah. And they say that the game, quote, trivializes violence due to its high killing rate and explicit graphical representation of mutilation. So,
I mean, they're not wrong.
Yeah, they're not wrong. I mean, it just kind of depends on what the violence things are for you in your country. You know what I mean? Yep. It's just like one of the things. So
just their threshold is lower than other places.
Exactly. It's just where you live. But yeah, so that's Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. I mean, I love these games, and I know Tyler loves these games. Play these games in college all the time.
Yep.
We played this last weekend. I was out of town this weekend, but we played it last weekend, and I had a blast. So I definitely want to play more Left 4 Dead 2.
I would love to play some Left 4 Dead 2. I remember sitting around so Mike and I were both in theater in college, and we had this like area called the green room where people get ready for shows and stuff. But like during the day, it's just where all the 3 theater kids would just hang out like between classes. And I played so many rounds of Left 4 Dead just sitting in the green room with anybody there who also had their computers out to play, because it worked on Macs and PCs, and like it didn't require really high-end computer even for the day. Like it didn't require a really strong computer to run, and so we could generally find somebody who had it and would want to play with us. We just had so much fun.
Yeah, it was so good. That and Mario Kart Double Dash. Oh, what a great time to be alive.
Yeah.
So that's Left 4 Dead 2 though, and we're gonna do another spooky game next week. And that is going to be a Discord suggestion, but we're not going to tell you what it is. We're going to surprise you. You know,
it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, there was some chat about it, and I'm like, okay, this will be good. This will be really fun. But for now, Tyler, what you been playing?
This week, I haven't been spending a whole lot of time playing games. I'm spinning around in my chair now. I got to look at I haven't been playing anything on my PS2 or my PC. I put some real time into Oceanhorn 2 today on my iPhone, because I got the new iPhone, so I wanted some like a graphically intense game to test the new iPhone with, and I kind of got sucked in a little bit. It's a fun like kind of Zelda style game that's not quite as good as Zelda. Like the puzzles aren't quite as intuitive, but it's still fun. It's still very like technically impressive for a phone, and it's free if you have Apple Arcade, which is only $5 a month if you care. I love Apple Arcade. But other than that, I haven't been playing a whole lot of games. A little bit more Genshin Impact, not a whole lot. Starting to fall off of that a little bit. I'm not really seeing what the end game is, where you get to the end and like, what am I doing here? I haven't really figured out like why, like the why of why should I keep playing. So yeah, I've just been watching a lot of YouTube and like kind of taking a little bit of a break from video games. You got to do that every once in a while to make sure that you don't burn yourself out, And I've been working a lot too, so.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, what have you been playing?
Well, I was gone this weekend, but before that, I've been all up in Animal Crossing again. I'm doing it. I'm trying to get the candies for this. Something that happens when you get all the candies. I don't know what it is. I hope I get some neat stuff. It's been really fun. And then I've been playing some Mario 35, been playing some Apex, also been playing some Borderlands.
I need to play Mario 35 still.
Yeah,
I keep hearing such good things, and it's like temporary, right?
Oh yeah, it's so fun. It's like a very low commitment, fun little thing. But I do think I don't know. It might never go away, but there are these like special events that happen that go away like every 2 weeks. So
I feel like I heard it like the whole thing goes away in March or something like that. I could be wrong. I think like the game just stops in March.
I really love it.
Yeah, I gotta pick that up and play it while I still can.
Yeah, the game's super fun, but I love it. And then Baldur's Gate 3 has been a blast. And yeah, so I also like have been gone and out and about and stuff and haven't played as many games. But we got some emails to read. You want to read some emails?
Yeah.
Do you want to read Matt in Japan's?
Yeah, I'll read Matt in Japan's. Matt says, "Hey, Mike and Tyler. I'm a couple weeks late to respond to this, but regarding internet cafes in Japan, I can confirm that they exist, and I've been to one. Internet cafes are also called comic cafes because they offer an extensive library of Japanese comics that you can check out while you stay there. While they aren't as gaming focused as the ones in Korea or China, they do have PCs with some gaming capability, but are generally used for general internet browsing and have recently started offering VR headsets for checkout. So you book a room, which is more like a cubicle, that comes equipped with a reclinable chair, a desktop computer, a TV, and a DVD player. Some rooms can even come with a sofa or a padded mattress option. The cafe usually has an unlimited fountain drink machine, vending machines, and cup noodle dispensers. Some cafes even have showers, changing rooms, and luggage storage. Wow, these are starting to sound like motels or something.
They are.
Rooms can be booked for a set amount of time, for example, 3 hours for $9 or entire nights for $12 to $20, essentially making them super low-cost hotels for people on a budget. Okay, so yeah. If you miss that last train, need somewhere cheap to crash for the night, is more comfortable than a karaoke room or the 24-hour McDonald's. Internet cafes are the way to go. Peace, Matt in Japan. Wow, that's so interesting of like the dirt cheap hotel of just like, I'll just rent this basically cubicle with a recliner in it for $20, catch some Z's, and then catch the next train home.
Dude, I want Matt to do Japanese travel information. That's a good life tip. That's like a life hack right there.
We should go visit Matt in Japan and just get him to tour guide us around everywhere.
And then let's all split a room that's $20 a night in an internet cafe.
Yeah, that's where our base of operations will be, an internet cafe.
That's perfect. Okay, we got another email from Zach. You ready?
Yeah.
Hey, Mike and Tyler, it's Zach, awesome guy from the Discord. Oh, hello, Zach. He played Left 4 Dead with me, I believe. So
yeah,
I've
he played Among Us too.
Oh yeah, that's fun. Oh, how did we forget to mention that? That's always a good time. Play Among Us. So I've wanted to email for a while, but didn't really have anything to talk about until this last episode. Not sorry for the long email. First, I wanted to piggyback off something Nick said. I listened to every episode, and one thing that has stood out to me is your guys' upbeat attitude and joy. I think right now we all are on the struggle bus, at least a little bit, but your attitude is infectious and always a welcome part of my week. Thank you, Zach. Secondly, Thank you guys for putting together the Discord. My two boys and I have been feeling pretty isolated lately, as I'm sure everyone has. The Discord has really given us a sense of community, plus it's super fun. When we get home every day, one of the first things we do is hop on there. It's definitely a highlight. Plus, I am looking forward to another night of wreaking havoc with Tyler in Among Us. I think we're both pretty sus. That is true.
Dude, Zach and I were wrecking people in Among Us when we were the imposters.
Yeah, you guys were disturbingly good at murder on spaceships. All right, you guys also reminded me why I ever liked video games in the first place, because they're fun. I drew some inspiration, and I'm in the process of dialing in a modded Minecraft server and Discord for my kids and their friends to play on. That's a cool project. That's really cool.
Oh, yeah. That's fun.
Also, wanted to give a shout out to Nick. I popped one of the keys in for Nebula Within, and what a lovely game. It's like the perfect dichotomy of chaos and calm. I highly recommend it. I feel like he did a heck of a job capturing the human condition in a unique and fun way. I fully plan on playing a ton of it. So thanks, Nick, for the totally rad game. That's right, Nick made Nebula Within, and he's on our Discord, and he wants people to play the game and try it out. So you guys should message him and talk to him about it. And if you want to join our Discord, you can go to my Twitter profile. It's pinned there. Or you can just email us at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com, and I will send you a link. Okay, time to finish.
I should pin it to my Twitter, too, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Probably should. Yeah.
It's pretty easy. But, okay, let's keep going with Zach's email. It's almost over. But enough putting everyone over, lol. I do have an episode request for some time down the line. I am a huge Dr. Mario fan and love the puzzle game genre in general, i.e. Wario's Woods, Yoshi's Cookie. Can you add puzzle games to the list, please?
Ooh, we can talk about some Tetris Attack. Oh, yeah, I love Tetris Attack.
I think that answers your question, Zach. I think we're going to do it. I hope you guys have a great week, Zach. Thank you, Zach. I've never played Wario's Woods or Yoshi's Cookie, but
I haven't either.
I love Dr. Mario. Dr. Mario's great.
Yeah, my favorite puzzle game is probably Lumines or Lumines, however you say that, and also Tetris Attack. I really love Tetris Attack, also known as Pokemon Puzzle League to some folks. It's the same game.
Same game. Gotcha. Well, we got one more email. You want to read it?
I'll read Corey's email. Corey says, "Hey, Tyler and Mike, I recently just binged all of your episodes over the course of about a month and a half at work while at work, and to say that Codex is one of the best podcasts I've listened to in a while. You guys have great banter with one another, and I look forward to hearing the newest episode every Monday. I have a question for you both. What is your favorite lesser-known game series? Mine would have to be Time Splitters series for the PS2/GameCube/Xbox era of systems. The third one, Future Perfect, is by far the best one. It would be great if you two could do an episode about that series. Also, another idea for an episode I have would be The Sims. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and a history of the games would be awesome from you two. Keep up the great work on the podcast, and I'll talk to y'all on the Discord. Peace." Corey from New Hampshire.
Ooh, I've heard of Time Splitters. I've never played it though. We should.
I played a little bit. It's a good. I like to think of it as kind of the spiritual successor to GoldenEye or Perfect Dark. Like
I love
that
Perfect
style
Dark.
that style of first person shooter is like carries on into Time Splitters and Time Splitters 2. I haven't played the third one, but they're made by a company called Free Radical, which is now known as Crytek UK, I think, unless they have changed since then. That is made up of a bunch of people that worked at Rare and made GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. So it's like those same people kind of went on to make a similar style of game. So that's pretty cool.
I gotta check those out. That might be something I play. That sounds like right up my alley, you know?
Yeah. We could probably get something going with like NetPlay on an emulator or something. You know, we could play online over the internet.
That'd be fun. I do have a lesser known game because I think it has had two, so it makes it a series. Do you have one?
I'm trying to think of a series. I have one, my go-to lesser-known game, but I need to think of I'll think of a series too.
I'm pretty sure this game has two games with it. That means this is a series, technically.
Yeah, technically, yes.
All right. And that game came out on the Nintendo 64 on February 1998, and that game is called Snowboard Kids. And this game is amazing.
Wow. Yes.
I had this game. I still have this game for N64. It's an amazing game. It's like Mario Kart, but you're snowboard kids and you throw stuff at each other. And there was a fat one in a green coat who I loved. I think his name was Tommy. Yeah, his name's Tommy. And then also the secret character was like a ninja named Shinobin. And I played the first game so much, but I never played the second game. And I need to get a copy of the second game because this game is so good. I love Snowboard Kids so much.
I loved it. And the soundtrack was like really good. I haven't played this game in like 20 years. So maybe I'm like nostalgia too much, but the soundtrack was good. There's like a cool grass level too where you're like snowboarding on grass. Oh man, now you make me want to at least find some videos on YouTube.
I have it. You know, it opens up, it's like Snowboard Kids, and then the music kicks in. You're like, oh, this is a great game. I love Snowboard Kids.
It's made by Atlas, so it has like Jack Frost in it. If you're familiar with Jack Frost from any of the Persona games, he is. I don't know if he's playable in it, but he's definitely in the game. He's kind of like Atlas's mascot. But yeah, Snowboard Kids, good pick. That's a really good pick. For
I thought about this when I read the email. I'm like, oh man, this is one of my favorite. I played this game so much. I might boot it up again on my 64. I love this game so much.
Yeah.
So good. So try to beat Snowboard Kids, Tyler.
So for me, lesser known series, these two games they're made by the same developer. They're loosely the same series, I would say. I mean, I guess they're similar, but I'm going to have to go with the games Frequency and Amplitude. They're rhythm games made by a company called Harmonix that you may have heard of. Same company that made Guitar Hero and Rock Band. They made these games before Guitar Hero and Rock Band, and they're that you play them with just a standard controller, so there's no big plastic peripheral. But they're like very proto Guitar Hero, where it's like the things flying down the runway and you have to hit them at the right time, and you play each instrument like for like a few seconds. If you can nail the combo on the instrument, then you're done with that instrument for a little while, and you can move on to another one, so you get to play all the different instruments, which is really cool. They released a game for Xbox 360 arcade called Rock Band Blitz, which is very similar to Amplitude. And also Rock Band Unplugged for the PSP is also very similar to Amplitude. Those are like the best versions of those games because they have like very well-known songs, because by then they could get licenses to new songs. But that's where Frequency and Amplitude, I want to say, maybe not Frequency, but Amplitude for sure, had songs by Freeze Pop in them, which is one of my favorite bands, and they've had songs in all of the Harmonix rhythm games since then, or most of them at least, because one of the band members works at Harmonix, so makes sense. Anyway, that's my pick for like lesser known series. The other game that is, yeah, you should. They're for PlayStation 2. They're really, really good, and I highly recommend them. I have another pick that's not a series, unfortunately, but my sort of go-to for like lesser known game that I think was really fun, that I rented for a weekend, played it, beat it, loved it, never touched it again. So maybe it's not actually that good, but I loved the game for Xbox 360 called Wet. It was like a third-person shooter.
I remember Wet.
Yeah, starring had Eliza Dushku was the voice of the main character, and it was this really fun third-person shooter that had like a slow motion mode where you would like go into a room and like slow-mo, like kill everybody in it, and it was just really fun, really well polished, and I don't think it got the advertising that it deserved, and so it didn't really do very well, and they never made another one, but it was really fun.
Dude, it was published by Bethesda.
Really?
Yeah. Artificial Mind and Movement developed, but published by Bethesda for the PS3 and Xbox 360.
Oh, well, maybe we'll see it hit Game Pass.
That'd be amazing. The game got like 7.5s out of 10 on a lot of places. It's got a 70 out of 100 on Metacritic. It's not bad.
Yeah, it got decent reviews. I mean, it wasn't like the best game ever. Obviously, I think it would have got a sequel if it had, but I think it was good enough to get a sequel. I think it was one of those games that if it got another one in the series, the second one would have been like, oh, nailed it. You know?
Yeah. That kind of, this game should be brought up again. They should reboot this and Snowboard Kids. That's what we've decided. Two very similar games, Wet and Snowboard Kids.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah. Maybe I'll give Wet another playthrough one of these days, or at least like kind of boot it up just to see if it holds up. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I don't want to ruin my memories, but I had so much fun with that game for one weekend when I rented it from Blockbuster, so that tells you how long ago this was.
Nice. Well, we got one review. Want me to read the review on Apple Podcasts?
Sure. This
is from Enoghye, I think. Is it Enoghye? I don't know how. Is it enough? Enough? I don't know. I can't read, is what I've learned. But the review is, "Hi guys, this podcast is so good. The witty banter never fails to make me laugh. Hey, did you guys know that USA Networks just cast the two Johns for a Masters of Doom TV movie? Love the show so much." Oh, thank you for the review. And I did not know they were doing a Masters of Doom movie.
They're making a movie?
Yeah, but it's USA Networks. It's a TV movie. A made-for-TV movie.
Wow. I mean, I still want to watch it.
Oh, yeah. I don't care about the made-for-TV thing. You know, made-for-TV movies brought us Brink, okay? Or Johnny Tsunami.
You're right. Did you ever watch the movie Pirates of Silicon Valley?
No, I didn't. I've heard that's good, though.
It's very good. It's got Noah Wyle plays Steve Jobs. And this movie's at least 20 years old by now. You got Noah Wyle plays Steve Jobs, and Anthony Michael Hall plays Bill Gates. And it's really good. I think it probably holds up today even. And it's a TV movie. So,
dude, well, now people that listen to this episode, they got Wet, Snowboard Kid game suggestions, and then Pirates of Silicon Valley as a TV suggestion.
Watch Pirates of Silicon Valley. Movie's real good.
Well, we did it. What a great episode. We did it. As always, you can email us at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at @mecoletta for me or at SneakerElf for Tyler. I think that's it, though. Tell your friends about the game. Tell your friends about Wet and Snowboard Kids, but also tell your friends about the podcast if you would like. And then if you want to review us on Apple Podcasts, that's cool. We're almost at 100 reviews, which is already, I'm surprised we have more than 10. So this is really bananas. This whole thing is gangbusters, hotcakes, bananas to me. But thank you everyone that's helped with the podcast and reviewed us. And if you want to join the Discord, pop in at my Twitter and click the link and pin to the top or send us an email. It's been really fun, talking to people there and learning more about games. It's just good. It's just real nice. And with that, you want to say bye to everybody, Tyler?
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.